for President Obama to address the country and show that leadership and that compassion and kind of bring us all together.
It would go back to, I think, what people thought they were going to get out of Obama on Inauguration Day. I mean, I was right here on the set at Fox News, and I remember looking at it and seeing this power of having, 40 years after the Civil Rights passage, 45 years after, you have a black president, and how powerful and amazing that was. And then he became just sort of a Democratic president shortly thereafter and started pummeling on Republicans. I think that was disconcerting to a lot of people. So he has a chance to, I think, reassert and reestablish what he had at the very, very beginning of his presidency.
Yeah, absolutely. Juan Williams goes on to say that President Obama can acknowledge, Richard, differences sort of around the family table. There's a lot of hot-button issues right now people disagree very vehemently about, from immigration to gun control. But, I mean, he has to basically kind of stay away from that fray, I would say. Wouldn't you say, Richard?
I agree. I think the president does have to stay away from, bringing the issues here. This is really about his friend, Congressman Gabby Giffords, and those people that were slain. But I also think that, moving forward, coming back from this, I hope this is a launching point where Democrats and Republicans can begin to work together. They need to use Congressman Giffords as an example of, coming together, being, bringing bipartisanship to Washington. And I think hopefully what we'll see from the president is what we saw from President Clinton during the Oklahoma City bombing. We need to come together as a country. We need to work together to bring unity to our country so we can work on solving some of the family table issues that we have in America.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think he's going to probably do a very good job today, because I think he understands what the issues are, and that he needs to, be careful in terms of how he handles it, because kind of one false move,
He already went out of his way
problem.
to congratulate and thank the outspoken sheriff in Arizona.
Well, he shouldn't have done that.
Yeah,
that was not a good move.
But in other words, that's the reason I'm not 100% sure about his instincts.
And that's going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. By the way, Fox News will be carrying that with Brett Baer. But now, how about this? There's a Washington article out of Washington Associated Press saying that Americans give higher marks to President Barack Obama and congressional Republicans after a holiday season of compromise paid dividends for both, according to the latest Associated Press poll. So, a survey found that 53% of Americans approve of how Obama's doing his job, his best numbers since that divisive, health care vote 10 months ago. And you can check this out right here. I see 53-47. So that's a pretty significant increase. What do you think, Charles?
I think there are
one that has sustenance. It's going to stay. It's
if you look at the 2008 election polls, exit polls after the election, we're still a center-right country even then. So you had this tidal wave electing Democrats, and people were still center-right. Now, of course, it was the center people who decided that they were going to pull the lever for Democrats because they were kind of sick of Republican governance, and understandably so. But then the Democrats went off in the other direction. Obama, when he compromised with the Republicans, when he put forward an extension of the tax cuts, when he did other things to actually show that he was serious about working with Republicans, a lot of people there in the center said, "Okay, I'll give him another look."
Now, this is interesting. People still aren't so hot on Congress. It says 69% disapprove, 26% approve. Those are bad numbers. I mean, really?
Those are good numbers relative to the norm. No,
and nearly 6 in 10 still say the nation is heading in the wrong direction. Let's see what else we got here. We have Republicans got a little bit of a bump in Congress. So they have now 36% give them high marks compared with 29% last fall, but it's primarily driven by Republicans. Independents haven't changed as much. And this poll was conducted from January 5th to January 10th. What I'm curious about is whether or not we're going to see kind of maybe a little bit of a bump for the president, depending on how he handles himself tonight, Richard.
I think we will see a bump for the president, because what has been sort of what was sort of drowning the president all along was the fact that there was so much heat and fire coming from vehement fire coming from the right when it comes to some of the accomplishments he was trying to make for the American people. But I think going forward, what we saw in December, what we saw with the tax cut compromise, and going into this Tucson, Arizona speech, I think what we'll begin to see is the leader Obama, which is the leader Obama that we've seen all along. But now we're beyond the elections, so he has a chance to really be a true leader. And I think Joe Biden said it best in his USA Today editorial when with this tax cut compromise that President Obama is bringing real money to real people, and tapping into the emotions of the American people and the strength and the courage that we have, and putting money back in their paycheck that they're probably going to get this Friday or the following Friday is a step in the right direction.
There's another topic I wanted to discuss. The Washington Post had a column by Charles Krauthammer, who's a regular here on Fox and on the O'Reilly Factor. The charge, he said, the Tucson massacre is a consequence of the, quote, climate of hate created by Sarah Palin, the Tea Party, Glenn Beck, Obamacare opponents, and sundry other liberal noirs. Okay, the verdict. Rarely in American political discourse has there been a charge so reckless, so scurrilous, and so unsupported by evidence. Richard, do you think that this has backfired a bit on the liberal base, that they're making these kind of accusations to blame Sarah Palin, Glenn Beck, and others for these for this massacre?
Not at all. Not at all. I don't get me wrong. I think that you can't blame anybody for this guy and his evil acts. But at the end of the day, I think what we should do is we should take a broader question of the conversation and the rhetoric that's not happening in Washington, but also happening across the country. And we saw this display at some of these healthcare town halls. I was an attendant of one healthcare town hall, and this anger and this vehement hate for President Obama, and this comparison of President Obama to Hitler, and to the spitting on members of Congress during the healthcare vote, and calling African American members of Congress the N-word. That stuff is unacceptable. No matter what party it comes from, it is absolutely unacceptable. And I think what we need to do is we need to use this Tucson, Arizona case we use this Tucson, Arizona incident as a chance for us to rise above the fray and to change the rhetoric in Washington and change the rhetoric in America.
Richard, with all due respect, that never happened. You didn't have the N-word being hurled. There was the accusation from a member of Congress. It was never backed up by any evidence. Andrew Breitbart offered $100,000 to someone who could provide evidence that it happened. No one came forward. So even with $100,000 on the line, no one could actually verify or prove or substantiate something that happened supposedly openly in public, where everyone has their cell phone video cameras ready and going at any point, at any time. So it's a canard. It's a canard used to libel the right, just like you had after the Tucson shooting. It's the same impulse in the left, and I don't know why they have this. Look, do you have some vitriol that's unfortunate against Obama? Absolutely. The man is still the leader of the free world. He is the President of the United States. He is accorded due respect. However, to say that it just happened now under Obama, was Richard not paying attention during the 8 years of George W. Bush, when you had people on the left going absolutely bananas about that man?
Yeah.
At the same time, there's only in our recent history, there's only been one time that a sitting member of the U.S. House decided that he was going to yell out and disrespect the leader of the free world in a joint session of Congress, and that is unacceptable.
Not one time in our history, man. One time televised.
How is that tied into the Tucson shooting?
No, I'm not saying it's tied to the Tucson shooting at all. I'm saying right now is a time as a country we need to rise above all of this and leave the partisan rhetoric behind and begin to work together. And we need to use this incident as a rallying point for all Americans, Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah, what I'm saying is it's being used, though, unfortunately, to say that this climate of hate perpetrated by the right is responsible for the massacre that happened in Tucson, which
Kimberly,
is not
can
accurate.
I tell you what makes me sad about this? What makes me sad is that we're avoiding the real issue here. The real issue is that you have people with mental health problems that we don't know what to do with.
Like this guy, I guess, hallmarks, they say paranoid schizophrenia.
Paranoid schizophrenic, from what we can see from the public record. We know that when he was in college, he scared the bejesus out of people in his class. Did you guys see the emails that were sent from a 50-year-old woman to her friends at the time, saying there's this kid in the class who's disturbing, disruptive. I'm sitting near the door just in case. I'm afraid of him. They kept trying to find ways to kick him not only out of the class, out of the school. The police had visited his home.
Don't they have an obligation, don't you think, Joel, that they should have done something more when they saw that, in fact, this person was mentally ill and disturbed to report it to somebody?
Look, fear of lawsuits. That's
another problem. It doesn't absolve them of responsibility because they instead shunned him and put him out in the community where he still poses a danger.
But here's what we don't have. We don't have a national discussion on how do we handle people who quite possibly are threats. Now, look, we live in America. We don't forcibly drug people against their will. Exactly.
That guy, same thing.
Why after Virginia Tech and after this, when are we going to have that conversation about what do we do with people who have pretty obvious signs that something's wrong, but it's not my problem? We'll let it be someone else's problem. We'll wait until he either barges into a classroom fully loaded or goes to a Safeway in Tucson or goes somewhere else. When are we finally going to have that? It's not an easy conversation to have.
Well, also, Charles Krauthammer makes this point. The available evidence that we have, Richard, about Mr. Loeffner is that he had this fixation with Gabby Giffords back in 2007, which, predates, of course, Glenn Beck and Sarah Palin. No one had really even heard of her by the way.
Right.
She was like governor, but that was it. Glenn Beck wasn't even here. There was no Tea Party. There was no health care reform. All of those issues that are sort of being bandied about to say that they're responsible, this predates it.
You're indeed correct. It does predate it, and don't get me wrong. I think the person who did this is obviously he's probably mentally insane, and his acts were evil and wrong. But what I think we need to begin to have a conversation with is, he's right, of how we deal with these individuals, as they play into society, and how do we maintain a safe and reliable society. But I think we're also looking at another situation that I want to bring up, is that members of Congress's job are to be for the people, to represent the people, but there has to be a conversation of what type of protections we provide for our members of Congress, and to make sure that if this guy had been going after Gabby since 2007, we need to begin to make sure that this doesn't happen to another member of Congress. There's not imitations of this type of thing across the country. So we need to have a conversation about how we deal with our mentally ill, almost insane individuals, and on top of that, we need to have a conversation about how we protect our leadership.
Okay.
From a terrorism standpoint, one of the dirty little secrets is one of the softest of targets we have in America that's actually a valuable target, members of Congress. When they're not actually on Capitol Hill or in a secure location,
not secure at all.
Most of the time they're outside, they're out and about, they're at Safeways, they're out on the street shaking hands. So what happens if somebody with nefarious intent who isn't mentally ill but actually is trying to harm America? Then what do you do? Yeah. This has exposed a real problem we have.
Yes, exactly. You're absolutely right. I want to switch gears a bit to talk about something else very important. We have sadly, the anniversary of the earthquake in Haiti, and there's an article in the Wall Street Journal saying, we really haven't made that much progress. There's still so many people displaced. They haven't cleaned up hardly any of it. I mean, it's really sad when you look at some of the numbers, of what happened. It's just, I guess there's a lot of well-meaning charities and stuff, but it's sort of chaotic over there. It doesn't seem to be functioning quite well, and the Haitian people are suffering.
Yeah, well, look, when you didn't have an infrastructure put into place before, in a year, you can't necessarily just airlift everything over and have a fully functioning welfare system put into place. And that's what you had rampant corruption before to go along with the grinding poverty. Look, Dominican Republic, where things, same island.
Right.
And yet they were fine. And of course, they weren't as close to the epicenter of the earthquake. But the fact is, they had better buildings, they had less corruption, they had a much better society, and that's unfortunately probably the root of the problem in Haiti.
Yeah, I'll give you a final comment, Richard, before we have to let you go.
Well, I am very saddened by the earthquake that happened in Haiti last year, and the fact that there's not much progress on that. Being from Miami, Florida, I have a lot of friends that are Haitian, and both my parents are Jamaican, so I understand and I feel for them, and I do pray for them a lot, and I hope that we will continue to, those of you who can, to donate and make sure that we continue to support these folks as they go through their trying time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well stated. Okay, Richard Fowler, thank you so much, Director of the Phoenix Freedom Pack. Thank you for being on the program today.
Thanks for having me, Kim.
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial.